Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star Part 249 based on novel. So let's start. Star Tower was 9 light years tall. It was so enormous, as if it were covering half the universe. This most power true treasure in the universe had led to mass slaughtering among the 4 pinnacle races, yet no great being was able to take it. The true treasure became a battlefield for billions of races in the universe, and countless undying fighters died inside. Inside the tower, at the core palace, a blurry, golden light was glowing as Luophone walked out of the golden light. Star Tower. Luophone smiled. He felt the joy from Star Tower. Go to Seal Space. Luophone walked to the edge of the palace, and a portal leading to Seal Space appeared. Star Tower was innately a sealing true treasure, and Seal Space was its center. It was vast with black ground and cordilleras. Luophone flew up and looked down at the ground. Remote ocean, show up. Luophone yelled. With the earth shattering, the remote ocean appeared in the Seal Space out of nowhere. Remote ocean body, earthling original body, Mosha body, and golden horned beast body could all enter and exit the internal world instantly. Of course, after the internal world and space fragmented, being merged and turning into a god country, it would happen no more. The internal world could still exist for a while after someone becoming undying, but after a certain amount of time, the internal world would start to crumble. A diameter of 6 billion miles. Luophone stood on the ocean, stepped on the waves, and pride filled his heart. Such godly power. Boundless. Star Tower. Drive? Luophone started to control Star Tower with his mind. Willpower wasn't closely related to actual power but had a lot to do with one's training and experience. However, with consciousness bound together with power, a Sector Lord could kill a universe-level fighter with one look, as his consciousness force could crush a universe-level fighter's soul. After becoming undying, consciousness depended on godly power. Luophone's remote ocean body had greater godly power than most universe knights, and he had a terrifically large amount of such power. His consciousness surpassed most universe knights and had reached the universe overlord level. Water pillars swirled and extended to the hollow around them. They penetrated Star Tower, and the godly power merged with the entire Star Tower. Mysterious force emanated from Star Tower, and the seal stars and lore engravings on the heavenly pillar bewildered Luophone. It's so complicated. I can't comprehend them at all. But it feels so good when my godly power and Star Tower completely merged with each other. I don't need to care about the meaning of the lore engravings. I'll use my force. Luophone clenched his teeth and growled. Move! Star Tower barely trembled, the amplification was so small that it was not visible. This is too difficult to drive. Luophone was a bit stupefied. He felt like an ant trying to push a rock. Godly power, burn. Drive? Luophone clenched his teeth. All the godly power in Star Tower started to burn, and it became 1,000 times more powerful. Star Tower started to move, and Luophone now felt like an ant carrying a grain of rice. Though it was still heavy, he could at least run with it. Luophone stopped after moving Star Tower only a little bit. Stop. Luophone stopped burning his godly power. Oh my god. I've already burned godly power dozens of times more than that of remote ocean body. Luophone was dazed. Though I can move Star Tower, I can't drive it like I do on other true treasures. Luophone shook his head. It was supposed to be easy when utilizing weapons. A spiritual force weapon was supposed to be at light speed when being utilized. When Luophone used Star Map, the stars would shoot out like lightning. On the other hand, he needed to burn his godly power when driving Star Tower, and it was still so slow that enemies could totally dodge it. No wonder, Luophone whispered. No wonder Master Zwashanku said I can only drive Star Tower when I become a universe knight. He gave me the 9-volume manual and knew that I had a golden horned beast body. He could tell that I could easily achieve a life gene level thousands of times greater, but he still speculated that I needed to be a universe knight. Luophone nodded. It seems I don't have enough godly power, and neither do I have deep law comprehension. There were two ways to drive spiritual force weapons. One way was to achieve adequately deep law comprehension, which could amplify the effect of godly power tenfold. The other way was to obtain a large amount of godly power. If I'm really able to drive Star Tower, I'll be capable of changing the size of Star Tower to make it move as fast as lightning. Luo Feng shook his head. I'm only undying. It seems that I'm not yet qualified to use this supreme true treasure. Supreme true treasures were extremely precious in the universe. Only Universe Supreme Masters or Universe Masters could use those true treasures, and one of the reasons was that the conditions for utilizing Supreme True Treasures were so harsh. Although Luo Feng had a perfect life gene level, he was still only undying. He would be dreaming if he thought he was able to drive Star Tower now. If it weren't for the remote ocean, Luo Feng couldn't have even moved Star Tower with his other bodies. After all, he had consumed an enormous amount of godly power just now. Remote ocean, come back. Luo Feng stood above remote ocean. The remote ocean went back to his internal world. I will be one of the strongest beings in the universe when I'm able to drive Star Tower, Luo Feng whispered in the palace. He understood that he couldn't compare with universe masters like Primal Chaos City Leader and Master of Skywolf, even though he was indeed incredibly strong. However, his newfound immortality could already be a problem for some universe masters. Star Map was already an ultimate technique. The first move required 160 stars, the second required 520 stars, and the third needed 1,600 stars. When all the 1,600 stars combined, their power was increased exponentially. Luo Feng presumed that he would need more stars when he created later moves of Star Map, so he took some seal stars from Star Tower, and thus the stars on Star Map amounted to 10,000. I'll go and create my god country now. Back to the human territory. Luo Feng stepped into the golden glow. He disappeared. Inside the human territory, within the Ganwu universe. Luo Feng teleported himself into a region of space 50 million light-years from Earth, where there was nothing but dying planets and stars. I'll choose this place, Luo Feng whispered. He thought he shouldn't follow any rules when choosing a god country. Zoom. Luo Feng tore the space apart and stepped into the interlayers. There were thousands of layers in the space interlayers. The first layer was shattered, fragmented space. The second layer was the god country. The third layer was the space flood. These were categorized in terms of an ordinary undying fighter. To the real supreme beings in the universe, there was only one vast layer of space interlayers. The closer it was to the original universe, the smaller the space fragments were, and the farther it was, the larger the fragments were. And the deeper the space interlayers, the more dangerous it got. At the safest areas, even sector lords could survive. However, some areas could be life-threatening even to some universe knights. Luo Feng teleported himself and flew past the god country layer. He entered the space flood layer, opened his Shawu wings, and flew deeper. Ordinary undying fighters will establish their god countries in the god country layer, Luo Feng whispered. Some supreme beings will do the same thing. However, they'll move their god country deeper toward the space flood layer when they become stronger. The deeper it was, the safer the god country would be. Godly power was infused in the Shawu wings, which made them stronger. It started to fly among the space flood like a flash of light. The space fragments are getting larger and larger, some with diameters of 6 billion miles. Luo Feng could only see those enormous space fragments. There were already land and water on some of them. They were flying at high speed, and once they hit someone, especially the ones with a diameter of 6 billion miles, they could annihilate an emperor instantly. Luo Feng flew deeper and deeper. Sometimes, he teleported himself to dodge a colossal space fragment. His internal world had a diameter of 600 billion miles, so he needed to choose a space fragment that was of equal height, width, and length. 2 days after, Luo Feng finally saw some space fragments with a diameter of 1 trillion kilometers, and some were even larger. I need to be careful. Space fragments of this size can possibly kill a universe knight. Luo Feng was extremely careful. Those space fragments all came from the space flood, and they could easily hit someone because they flew so fast. Fortunately, Luo Feng had his Shawu wings, which helped him dodge the space fragments nimbly. Luo Feng teleported himself around a space fragment that had the largest diameter of 3.9 trillion miles and the smallest diameter of 1.3 trillion miles. It could merge with his internal world completely. Build the God Country. Luo Feng opened his wings and triggered his internal world. Suddenly, an invisible force burst out from his internal world, and it locked that space fragment. An enormous world showed up out of nowhere, as if it existed in an illusion or another dimension. It flew toward the targeted space fragment, and the space fragment was likewise drawn to it. One looked real, and one looked like a void. They got closer and closer to each other. Space trembled, and all the other space fragments avoided it. The world and the huge space fragment merged, stabilizing each other. A new, real world was born, and after a short while, the illusory world completely disappeared. It was his God Country. Luo Feng took a step and teleported himself into his God Country. The God Country was filled with energy, and it was constantly expanding. The remote ocean was nothing compared to the God Country. God Palace. Build. In the sky above remote ocean, a boundless amount of godly power gathered, and a towering palace came into being. It was a god palace emanating golden light and gold law energy. The top of the palace was a great spire and became the center of the God Country the moment it was formed. A God Country. My God Country. Luo Feng stood in the sky with his eyes closed and arms opened. He felt fantastic. He felt an instant connection to this place, as if he had physically become the God Country himself. Mountains. Plains. Swamps. A desert. An oasis. Lakes. Luo Feng sensed the entire God Country with his eyes closed. At this moment, he and his God Country were combined as one. Remote ocean's power merged with that of the God Country, empowering each other multiple times. This God Country is me, and I am this God Country, said Luo Feng. The power of my God Country might be able to kill some universe knights. Luo Feng opened his eyes and smiled. The foundation of the God Country was of the utmost importance. The internal world was the foundation, and an unstable foundation wouldn't lead to a sturdy God Country. Luo Feng's internal world had a diameter of 600 billion miles, which made his God Country a rival of lots of universe knights. This single step made all the difference. My God Country is finished. Luo Feng looked at the remote ocean. My remote ocean is able to perform my talent technique, I am the universe. Remote ocean body is already able to control the space and time around him to some extent. Together with I am the universe and the power of a God Country, it's terrifically mighty. The God Country, the remote ocean, and the talent technique I am the universe combined would wield exceptional power. However, if Luo Feng needed to risk everything like that, it meant he was cornered in a hopeless situation. After all, the God Country was the vital element. If it was destroyed, Luo Feng could never improve himself unless a supreme being turned back time and helped him. And performing, turning back time, on Luo Feng would come at a high cost. The remote ocean guarded the God Country. Luo Feng carried Mosha body, golden horned beast body, and remote ocean body at the height of more than 5,000 miles. Each of the three bodies resided in one world ring. I can enjoy fighting as much as I can now, said Luo Feng. Even if all my bodies are killed, remote ocean can recover them immediately. After all, even the godly power of the other bodies combined was nothing compared to what the remote ocean contained. The only thing I need to be mindful of is my true treasures. Luo Feng left his God Country but was soon summoned by Primal Chaos City leader. At the apex of Thunder Island, Luo Feng showed up and saw Primal Chaos City leader standing at the edge of the cliff. Teacher, Luo Feng said respectfully. Come here, Luo Feng, Primal Chaos City leader said as he turned around, saw Luo Feng, and smiled. Luo Feng walked to Primal Chaos City leader, confused. Yes? Luo Feng stood behind Primal Chaos City leader. Primal Chaos City leader said, stand right next to me and look down. Luo Feng took a step forward and stood side by side with Primal Chaos City leader. He looked down and saw fog pervading the mountain. Through the haze, he could see the indistinct shapes of palaces. All the undying fighters of the virtual universe company live here. Primal Chaos City leader said, looking down. The undying fighters live in the palaces on Thunder Island. On the mountainside of the center mountain on Thunder Island live the Universe Knights. As for Universe Masters, they live in the palaces at the top of the mountain, and some mighty Universe Overlords live there as well. Luo Feng nodded. He realized that having a palace at the top of the mountain on Thunder Island meant standing among the supreme beings in the universe. Now that you've become undying, it's your time to pick a place to live, Primal Chaos City leader said. Although I haven't seen you fight since you became undying, my guess is that you have the power of a Universe Knight. Choose a place on the mountainside and build a palace. Luo Feng was dazed. The mountainside? Yes, teacher, Luo Feng answered respectfully. Every Universe Knight has their own dimension as their territory, Primal Chaos City leader said. I'll arrange a new dimension for you. Luo Feng blinked in surprise. He was already treated as a Universe Knight. Universe Knights are already regarded as seniors of the human race, and they are involved with lots of important issues. Primal Chaos City leader said, looked at Luo Feng. Universe Knights can all participate in the Supreme Council of the human race, but you're just undying. Palaces on Thunder Island, dimensions in the virtual universe. These are all arranged by the virtual universe. I can make the decisions regarding those issues. However, the qualifications for joining the Supreme Council is decided by the entire human race. The virtual universe can't solely decide. I understand, Luo Feng answered. The Supreme Council. He had heard of it before. It was a council that only great beings stronger or equal to Universe Knights could participate in. Lots of major issues concerning the human race were discussed in the council. I believe that you have the power of a Universe Knight, but that's not enough, Primal Chaos City leader said. You need to show your power and prove that you're entitled to the status of a Universe Knight. Empty words are not enough. I understand. Luo Feng nodded. Without battle records, nobody would be convinced. After all, humans were not special life forms. Luo Feng was incredible when he was a sector lord, and hence some great beings suspected that Luo Feng defeated the undying fighters using some special valuables. However, that didn't mean that Luo Feng could defeat Universe Knights. Universe Knights and undying fighters were at two totally different levels. Undying fighters were only foot soldiers, future great beings and mentors of great beings of the next generation. But Universe Knights were the elites of a race. As for Universe Overlords and Universe Masters, they were the real pillars of a race. Okay. Primal Chaos City leader nodded. Choose a place on the mountainside. Yes, teacher. Luo Feng flew out and dove towards the mountainside. Primal Chaos City leader watched Luo Feng diving. He had witnessed the scene when Luo Feng became undying, and thus he believed that Luo Feng had the power of a Universe Knight. He even believed it when Luo Feng said he could defeat Xuchong Emperor. On the mountainside of the Central Mountain. The Central Mountain was a towering peak, and the palaces built here, where the Universe Knights lived, stood adjacent to each other. Their servants and disciples all lived in the same palaces, which had diameters of tens of thousands of miles or even more. These great structures only enhanced the beauty of the enormous Central Mountain. Luo Feng flew above the mountainside and looked for a suitable location. Luo Feng, he heard a voice say. Luo Feng turned his head and saw a shadow flying toward him. It was Nine-Blade Knight in a cyan cape and purple scales on his head. Nine-Blade Knight. Luo Feng smiled. Nine-Blade Knight greeted Luo Feng like a friend. He thought to himself, although Luo Feng is not as strong as I am, he's the renowned peerless genius and a disciple of Primal Chaos City leader. We're at the same status in the virtual universe. Nine-Blade Knight smiled. Luo Feng, are you going to see your teacher? No. Luo Feng shook his head. I'm looking for a place to build my palace. Build a palace? Nine-Blade Knight was perplexed. You've become undying, I presume, but undying fighters are supposed to build palaces at the bottom of the mountains. Why are you flying here? Ordinary undying fighters were not qualified to be on the mountainside. As for the servants in the palaces of the Universe Knights, they were only allowed to walk inside the palaces. Primal Chaos City Leader asked me to pick a place on the mountainside to build my palace, Luo Feng answered. Nine-Blade Knight was dazed at first. Then he felt discontent. The very idea was outrageous. Everyone needed to follow the rules. Even the person in charge of the virtual universe should be expected to appeal to the great beings under him before making such a decision. Building a palace on the mountainside was a privilege of Universe Knights. Even the invincible emperors had to build their palaces at the bottom of the mountain. There should be no exceptions. Then keep searching, said Nine-Blade Knight. He frowned and left. Luo Feng murmured, Nine-Blade Knight seems upset. But I can't blame him, as I haven't proven my power yet. It's understandable that some Universe Knights are not comfortable with this. But he didn't scold me, perhaps because he doesn't dare offend Primal Chaos City Leader. Luo Feng picked his location and architecture style that day. The virtual universe helped Luo Feng build the palaces. But there was disturbance among the Universe Knights after Luo Feng began building palaces on the mountainside. Blade River Emperor, Luo Feng, is building palaces on the mountainside. Even if he became undying, he's not qualified to build palaces on the mountainside. It's outrageous. He needs to show his power no matter who his teacher is. Primal Chaos City Leader. The Universe Knights on the mountainside gathered quite often. It was a social circle of Universe Knights, and normally, they felt superior to all undying fighters. But now, there would be an undying fighter living among them. Although they didn't dare to swear because of Primal Chaos City Leader, they all expressed their discontent when they gathered. On the mountainside on Thunder Island, a waterfall roared down toward the enormous lake under it. There was an island with a diameter of several miles in the lake, and there, 8 beings chatted with each other. Primal Chaos City Leader is the pillar of the human race, as he's made great contributions to us. But that Blade River Emperor Luo Feng, how is he related to the contributions of Primal Chaos City Leader? Humph. Primal Chaos City Leader earned his status with his power, his battles, and his contributions. As for Luo Feng, he's just a talent being cultivated and has been using the resources of our race. I didn't see his contributions at all. Why did he get true treasures? Why did he get the Beast God Inheritance token? Talents are just consuming the resources. They actually owe something to our race. As for us, we're earning resources for our race. No contributions, and he's weaker than us. How is he qualified to have our status? A 25-foot-tall being growled in anger. He had massive, strong arms and wore black armor. A huge iron hammer rested beside his seat. What Thunder Knight said makes perfect sense. Yes, it makes sense. Other Universe Knights nodded. Don't talk too much, a handsome man with 6 pairs of wings said. He sat drinking alone. This is arranged by Primal Chaos City Leader, after all. Even if it's Primal Chaos City Leader's arrangement, Luo Feng should know that he isn't qualified to have a place here, Thunder Knight said in a hoarse voice. Yet he built palaces on the mountainside. That means he believes he's qualified to have the same status as us. Look, True Yang is here. It's True Yang. Stop talking. True Yang is very close with Luo Feng. All the Universe Knights raised their heads and saw True Yang Knight fly toward them like a beam of light. Thunder Island contained many great beings. The beings here formed friendships based on their varying levels. Universe Knights would usually befriend each other. True Yang Knight loved making friends with others, and thus he was close to quite a few Universe Knights. True Yang, come and sit down. Yes, True Yang, sit. The Universe Knights were all fairly welcoming. Although they were discontent with Luo Feng, they wouldn't vent their anger on True Yang Knight. After all, True Yang's sincerity had earned him quite a few close Universe Knight friends these years. True Yang Knight approached the handsome man with 6 pairs of wings and laughed. Blacksmith, you seem angry. Want to share with your brother? Bloody Winged Knight, do you mind giving me some of your wine? The Winged Man smiled and poured some of his wine out. Bloody Winged Knight and Thunder Knight were the most powerful among the 8 Universe Knights. I am indeed angry, Thunder Knight said. Do you know the news about your disciple Luo Feng? The other 7 Universe Knights looked at him unpleasantly, but Thunder Knight glared right back, saying, True Yang will know anyway. Know what? True Yang Knight was dazed. Is it he who is becoming undying? That doesn't have anything to do with me, Thunder Knight said. Do you know that Primal Chaos City Leader allowed him to build palaces on the mountainside, like us Universe Knights? True Yang Knight was stunned. Thunder Knight continued, is only undying. How is he qualified to build palaces on the mountainside? Well. True Yang Knight was rendered speechless. Perhaps Primal Chaos City Leader has other thoughts in mind. Whatever thoughts he has in mind, he shouldn't have done this, Thunder Knight said. How could it convince us of his worthiness? Do you really think Luo Feng is as powerful as we are? Can you believe that? True Yang Knight hesitated to answer. Undying Fighters and Universe Knights were at 2 completely different levels. Universe Knights had hundreds of times more godly power than Undying Fighters, and along with the huge gap in lore comprehension and complexity of techniques. Universe Knights, in general, were thousands of times more powerful than Undying Fighters, if not more so. Even for special life forms like Bark Mirror Emperor and Zhuchong Emperor, they defeated some ordinary Universe Knights with their talent techniques. If it weren't for the talent techniques, the gap between their lore comprehension and that of Universe Knights would have crushed them. Thunder Knight shook his head. I'm not being jealous. I just care about the rules of our race. Everyone needs to follow the rules. Otherwise, how will the other great beings be convinced? It's already upset lots of great beings, but nobody dares to challenge the majesty of Primal Chaos City Leader. Hence, they all talk about it secretly and wait for your disciple to bring shame upon himself. If you really want the best for your disciple, please tell him to move off the mountainside unless he wants to be a disgrace. Besides, he just made himself an enemy of many Universe Knights. Isn't that getting the short end of the stick? Thunder is straightforward, but what he said makes perfect sense, Bloody Winged Knight said with a smile. True Yang, you need to think about what's best for your disciple. True Yang Knight was also upset. On the open-air square of the World of Glory, Luo Feng was chatting with Thousand Rain Emperor when someone landed beside him. Luo Feng. Luo Feng looked up and was surprised. Why have you come, teacher? I sent you an email to say that if you wanted me for something, you could go to the virtual universe and ask me and I would be there immediately. Thousand Rain Emperor, I need to have a word with Luo Feng now, True Yang Knight said. Thousand Rain Emperor left immediately. True Yang Emperor sealed the space around him, stared at Luo Feng, and said, I did receive your email, but some of my friends on Thunder Island dragged me into their conversation. Friends? Luo Feng blinked. All because of you. True Yang Knight shook his head. Apparently, building palaces on the mountainside of Thunder Island has upset quite a few Universe Knights. Luo Feng shook his head. Do they really need to be so petty? That's where you're wrong. True Yang Knight frowned. They have eternal lives, and their families have all passed away. They have been practicing for an eternity, and that is how they earned their current status. Their status and their honor might look worthless, but they value it very much. Luo Feng was astounded. Status. Honor. True Yang Knight whispered. I was stuck at the Invincible Emperor level for an eternity, and I could only hide. Only after becoming a Universe Knight did I earn a high status and incredible honor. And only after that did I become famous again. Their status and glory were earned by their power and contributions to our race. True Yang Knight sighed. What else do you think they care about aside from their status and honor? Luo Feng now understood completely. He had been wandering in the universe for 50,000 years, but he had been observing the weak. He had only seen a few Universe Knights, and hence, He hadn't realized that Universe Knights were also living beings, just living beings with great power. They were dedicated to something they believed in. Without families, they cared about their race, status, and honor above all else. They could die for their own race. They could die for their own honor. I now understand, Luo Feng said. No wonder so many great beings were disappointed by this. If I were a Universe Knight, I would also be upset if an undying talent suddenly gained the same level of glory as me. You're still young, and you're always at the center, True Yang Knight said. It's normal for you not to realize that. Luo Feng nodded. Yes. Status and glory were incredibly important to a great being. If someone became undying, became a Universe Knight, and died without being known, it would be boring. The most exciting way was to fight for honor. For glory. I know it. Luo Feng smiled. I'll prove to those Universe Knights that I'm a qualified one. I just need to defeat a Universe Knight. Defeat a Universe Knight? True Yang Knight was shocked. He hadn't witnessed the scene when Luo Feng became undying, so even if he had faith in Luo Feng, he couldn't imagine an undying human being defeating a Universe Knight. Even Bark Mirror Emperor could only bully the most mediocre Universe Knights, and he was almost killed by True Yang Knight. Bark Mirror Emperor was a unique life form with a life gene level of 2,000 times. There was a huge gap between undying fighters and Universe Knights. You don't believe me? Luo Feng laughed. Just watch. On the other side of the open-air square. Look, Bark Mirror Emperor. There's Blade River Emperor. Bark Mirror Emperor was sitting with the great beings of the Northern Territory Alliance. He looked at Luo Feng and True Yang Knight from afar. He hated both of their guts. He is indeed more powerful. Bark Mirror Emperor sneered. It seems that this Blade River Emperor has become undying. It's been 80,000 years. He had deep lore comprehension before he became undying, yet he still chose to wait for more than 80,000 years. So patient. I've been waiting for 80,000 years. Bark Mirror Emperor clenched his teeth. He wasn't sure whether he could rival True Yang Knight or not. However, he was confident that he could beat the famous Blade River Emperor. I'm undying, and you're undying as well, said Bark Mirror Emperor. It's not bullying if I fight you myself. After all, you're the peerless talent in the universe. Bark Mirror Emperor smirked and showed his fangs. Luo Feng and True Yang Knight were standing afar while True Yang Knight stood up and disappeared. Bark Mirror Emperor approached the heirs of the Hong Alliance. Bark Mirror Emperor is coming, someone said. Bark Mirror Emperor is walking toward us. All the 1,000 heirs in Hong Alliance turned around, including Luo Feng. This video will end here.